True Story Media.
Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again? There's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one and done look is about to pay for your next night out. Or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Do you even know what 453 kilograms of cocaine looks like? It's roughly 1,000 pounds. It weighs about the same as a grand piano, a large male grizzly bear, or 5 grown men forming a human pyramid. That's a lot of cocaine. Now, imagine all that cocaine, $63 million worth, packed into 13 bricks, tucked away in a motorhome, heading from California to Illinois. That's exactly what happened in 1995. A state trooper pulled over the RV for going 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. And at first, he gave the driver a warning. But the trooper started looking around and something just didn't seem right. The trooper said, "Wait here," and he called for a canine unit to search the camper. That's when they found the cocaine. All the passengers were arrested, including my cousin, who I'll call Edie's. When my family heard the news, we were shocked. I mean, it's still kind of hard to believe because my cousin Edie's never had a criminal record prior to this. After she was arrested, Edie sat in jail for 10 months awaiting trial.
It was crazy. I would look to the ceiling and I saw a little crack and I can just see if it was day or night.
Wow.
And there was always a little star in between that little crack. At night I can see the star and I'm like, oh my God, like you're going to make me cry, Harry. You know?
I know.
Because it was been rough, you know?
No, I can't even imagine. Ultimately, the jury didn't buy her story and convicted Edie's of drug trafficking. Tell me about that day when, the judge said the sentence.
But that day was horrible. Mommy was there. I remember mommy touching my shoulder. And when the judge said 60 years, I know she freaked out. I freaked out. I had to go to the bathroom to roll up because what the hell? I haven't never done anything, you know?
When I heard how many years you got, I couldn't believe it because not even murderers get that much time.
Nothing, not even that.
That was basically a life sentence.
Oh yeah, no, I will still be in prison right now.
Edie's was 33 when she was convicted. She would be 93 years old if she served her entire sentence. Over the course of this series, we've spent a lot of time poking holes in some pretty questionable acts of clemency. We've looked at the favors, the backroom deals, and the cases that just didn't sit right. But here's the thing, clemency does serve a purpose when it's done right. It's a powerful tool. It's the last-ditch effort to exonerate the innocent. It's a way to stitch a fractured nation back together, the way President Andrew Johnson did when he pardoned 13,000 Confederate soldiers, or how Jimmy Carter granted a second chance to hundreds of thousands of Vietnam draft dodgers. It's supposed to be about mercy. In today's episode, we are going to talk about my cousin's journey applying for clemency in the state of Illinois, what she's up against, and who exactly deserves a second chance. I'm Javier Leiva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else. Have you listened to the Jordan Harbinger show? Because if not, you're missing out. Because if you like this show, you'll definitely like the Jordan Harbinger show. I always tell people Jordan Harbinger is like my big brother in podcasting. I want to be him when I grow up. No, but seriously, I've been fortunate enough to be a guest on Jordan's show. We talked about romance scams and it was awesome. This man is a great interviewer. He has amazing guests on his show. just recently, I listened to an episode called How Fear Separates Saints from Psychopaths, which is a topic that I find fascinating because that's what Pretend's all about, right? It's about studying these people's psychology. Well, Jordan had a guest that talked about many famous studies, including the Stanford experiment, the Milgram shock test, and the Kitty Genovese story that turns out was either deeply flawed or outright fabricated. So if you are into interesting topics all the way around, from sports, politics, even some true crime, you got to check out The Jordan Harbinger Show. Search The Jordan Harbinger Show, that's Harb as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Can you imagine going to prison in the late 90s and then coming out in 2018? My cousin Edie's was incarcerated during the entire digital revolution. She must have felt like she walked out of prison and into a different planet.
And then you got out of prison and it was like a whole new world, right?
No, it was like a fish out of the water. You just like, I've never seen the phone with camera and you can talk to people in the phone. Like, what is this? It was impressive. I was really crazy because I've never seen it.
Yeah.
It was 23 years,
Yeah.
You're coming out of a world to a world that you knew back in the day, but you don't know nothing now.
Every family has a black sheep. The one that we whisper about at Thanksgiving. But that's not my cousin Edie's. Edie's was the fun one. Edie's is closer to my mother's age. They're part of that generation that came from Cuba in the 60s as kids, maybe 6 or 7 years old. They landed in a brand new country with their whole lives stretched in front of them. I have these vivid yet very blurry memories of the 80s. My mom was a nail stylist and Edie's would be at our house every single week to get her nails done. I don't remember the specific conversations. I was just a kid. But I remember the vibes, right? I remember the smell of the polish, the laughter, and just having fun. Edie's had everything going for her. Before prison, she was managing multiple medical departments at a healthcare clinic, which is why it hit us when one day, she was just gone. It felt like we would never see her again. 60 years.
I mean, you're 20-something years into this sentence and you're thinking there's no hope. But when did things start turning around for you? Because I never expected you to be out and...
I don't think you or anybody. When I turned my 15-year mark, I thought that's it, Nobody's, I'm not coming out ever again.
But then one day in 2019, I get a message from Edie's attorney asking me to write a letter to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker to ask him to grant her pardon for the 1996 conviction for drug trafficking. She had already served 23 years of her 60-year sentence. It just seemed like a long shot, honestly.
Because when you told me about that you wanted me to write a letter to the governor, I was just like, I'll write it, but I didn't think that was actually going to work.
Yo tampoco. I didn't know anything.
How many people wrote a letter for you?
Oh, a lot of people. Even the warden, the head of the prison, wrote me a letter.
Oh, really?
Until now, we've only been talking about federal acts of clemency granted by the President of the United States. With a single stroke of a pen, the president can wipe away any federal crimes for whatever reason they see fit. But that power only goes so far. The president has zero authority to pardon someone for state-level convictions. Because my cousin Edie's was convicted in state court, only Governor J.B. Pritzker has the legal power to pardon her. First, let's clear up the language here because a pardon and a commutation are not the same thing. A pardon is usually for people who are already out of prison. It's when the government formally forgives your crime and restores your civil rights, like the right to vote, the right to own a gun. But a commutation is for people who are still locked up. It's when the governor or the president steps in, cutting your sentence short so you can go home. If you want to understand the reality of what Edie's is up against, you have to look at the numbers, because in 2024, Governor J.B. Pritzker granted only 6 clemency petitions out of over 2,000 clemency applications. In 2025, he granted 74 petitions but 73 of those were just pardons for people who had already served their time. In 2025, out of all the people sitting in an Illinois prison praying for a second chance, Governor Pritzker only picked one, exactly one commutation. For Edie's, those odds seem impossible. So I wrote the letter to Governor Pritzker, licked the envelope, stuck it in the mail, and I thought I might as well have dropped it in a black hole. I needed to understand how the system actually works. So I reached out to Edie's attorney, Margaret Byrne. Margaret isn't just a defense attorney. She's been filing clemency petitions for the last 45 years. If anyone knows how to open this door, it's her.
Well, I started this organization in the 1990s called the Illinois Clemency Project for Battered Women. And I worked with volunteer law students and law professors and some lawyers. And we set up this whole project, and none of us got paid to do it. A battered woman in prison, she doesn't have any money, you know what I mean? A lot of battered women get sentenced to too much time because the abuse wasn't considered adequately when the judge sentenced them.
And specifically battered women that I guess were involved in some sort of crime.
Mostly the women I've represented have killed their batterers in some version of self-defense, but the self-defense didn't work. You know, here in Illinois, the minimum sentence for murder is 20 years. And if you use a gun in the commission of a murder, the minimum sentence, and you have to serve 100% of it, is 45 years. So you end up with some very unjust sentences.
You know, because the law is a blunt force instrument, right? And the clemency system is designed to look at situations like the one that you just described.
Yeah.
And that's what it's for, right?
And it's been the greatest pleasure of my career is to represent women who are in prison who shouldn't be there. It's great. Money can't compare to what it's like to watch a woman walk out of prison who shouldn't have been in there in the first place. You know, take her over to the Walmart and let her buy some new clothes. I mean, it's like heaven. It's so great.
So I was talking to my cousin because I started thinking about it, and I remember that years ago she asked me to write her a letter asking for clemency, and I just thought, man, that just seems like a long shot, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was like, hey, you know what? I love my cousin. I'm gonna write her a letter and see what happens.
They are rarely granted. Clemency is based on mercy. The last thing a prisoner can do, you know, after she has lost all of her appeals, lost post-conviction petitions. It's like the last-ditch effort for somebody who's in prison when everything else has failed.
But as you've heard in the previous episodes, some powerful people seem to skip to the front of the line. Since we're talking about Illinois, it would be amiss not to talk about Blago. You know, the former Democratic governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. While he was never accused of using his power to sell pardons or commutations, Rod's governor's office was very much open for business. When federal investigators finally closed in on him in 2008, they found out that he was taking bribes. He was actively using the office of the governor to squeeze people for cash. Blagojevich held up $8 million in state funding for a children's hospital. Do you want that money for those sick kids? Well, it's going to cost you a $50,000 campaign contribution from the hospital CEO. Then there was the state's racing industry. When the racetrack owners needed his signature on a piece of legislation, Blagojevich said, not so fast. Pay $100,000 as you pass go. But his most famous corruption was his attempt to auction off the United States Senate seat to the highest bidder. Yeah, when Barack Obama was elected president back in 2008, it fell to Governor Blagojevich to appoint his successor in the Senate. Blago saw this as an opportunity.
I've got this thing, and it's golden, and I'm just not giving it up for nothing.
Little did Blagojevich know that he was secretly being recorded by the FBI. He wanted millions in campaign cash. He was ultimately convicted on 18 counts, including wire fraud, extortion, and bribery. He was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. In 2020, President Trump commuted Blago's sentence and sent him home. So how does a disgraced, impeached Democratic governor end up walking free with his record wiped clean by a Republican president? We will never know for sure. Maybe Trump saw him as a kindred spirit, because 5 years later in his second term in office, Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon for Blagojevich.
I want to express our deepest and most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for what he's done today, for the full presidential pardon. I think about my relationship with President Trump, and it's really, well, he's always doing things for me, and he never asked me to do anything for him. After 2,896 days in prison, nearly 8 years, President Trump pulled me out of there, and now he did this. And all I can tell you is that President Trump is a man who, when he sees things that are wrong, he rights them and puts an end to them.
So there you have it, an Illinois governor who ran a pay-to-play operation, pardoned by a president who turned clemency into currency. Meanwhile, my cousin Edie spent 23 years inside prison, filed the petition the right way, through the right channels, and waited. When we come back from the break, we'll pick it back up with my cousin's case and follow her journey through the clemency process.
Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
When you need to send the perfect rose bouquet, only one brand can say they've been the floral authority for 50 years. 1-800-Flowers. Why should you trust 1-800-Flowers? They hand-select every stem to ensure top quality. And with nationwide delivery, smiles and satisfaction are 100% guaranteed. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses, we'll double it at no extra cost. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Order today at 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify.
Something is broken with our clemency system. Some people might say, why do we even need this system in the first place? If you committed a crime, serve the time and suck it up, right? But for me, I don't want to live in that world because I personally believe in second chances. I think it's easy to want to be tough on criminals, especially felons. But what happens when these people, when they get out of prison?
When you've been in prison for many years, the punishment continues when you get out because you can't get a job. People won't rent an apartment to you. It's so easy now to check someone's criminal background.
When you get out of prison, people say, just get a job. Easier said than done. If you're a felon, you can't even drive an Uber. You can't be a nurse. You can't be a real estate agent. You can't even get a license to cut hair in some states. The easiest place to hide is usually a kitchen of a restaurant, working the line, because it's one of the few places left that doesn't care about what you did in 1995. In this country, felons don't have many options, and oftentimes they go back to a life of crime. Shouldn't we have a system in place that rewards people who have served the time but have become productive citizens? Attorney Jeff Grant, the co-founder of the White Collar Support Group, tells me that he doesn't think the pardon system goes far enough.
A pardon is not a records expungement. A pardon is a forgiveness. So technically, even if you grant a presidential pardon, you still have a criminal record. That criminal record can still prevent you from doing a lot of things. Someone still might not want to hire you because you have a criminal record. Despite your pardon, you may not be able to be a baseball coach on your son's baseball team. There's a lot of ways a criminal record would still impede your ability to move your life forward, even if you got a pardon.
It is way easier to get a record expunged at a state level than at the federal level. If you're convicted of a federal crime, the door is essentially welded shut. For 99% of federal convictions, the only way to clear your record is to get a presidential pardon.
Because right now, very few people are getting pardons. Even with the amount of pardons that the prior administration gave out and the current administration is giving out, there really haven't been that many pardons. But there is a lot of pardon movement. There's a lot of pardon.
Or they're making a lot of noise. It's not the quantity, but it's who is getting pardoned.
Exactly.
You may remember Jeff Grant from a previous Pretend episode. In 2006, Jeff Grant pleaded guilty to charges of wire fraud and money laundering. As a result, he had to surrender his law license.
5 years ago, I got my law license reinstated in the state of New York. That gave me an opportunity for a second life. In my opinion, similar to a pardon, or much more powerful even than a pardon.
Since leaving prison, Jeff Grant has made it his mission to help offenders like him find their footing when they reach the other side.
The second thing is that I really want my record expunged. And if we succeed in getting an expungement bill passed, I want to be one of the first to put my application in to get an expungement. I think it's much more powerful than a pardon.
I think what happens with the clemency and with the pardons is that in some of these cases, it's such a slap in the face of the victims, right? Like wiping out restitution.
I think if the question is, has the pardon power been misused? Is it being used for, kind of as a business opportunity for the people who are seeking pardons? Sure, of course.
What Jeff Grant is describing is a system, not a process, not paying for political favors. Jeff Grant and his team of lawyers, academics, and policy advisors are helping draft a bill and are hoping to get it moved through Congress. If successful, they'll be able to make federal criminal expungement an alternative addition to the clemency system. But let's get back to my cousin Edie's case. I asked her attorney, Margaret Byrne, about the case.
She received a 60-year sentence, which at the time in 1996, when I heard that, I was thinking I would never see my cousin again. This was a life sentence. Do people really serve 60 years for this type of offense?
It's a very long sentence. I mean, her offense was drug trafficking. And in the 90s, everybody was all riled up about drug trafficking. And Illinois, across 80, the highway, lots of drugs were carried in trucks and motorhomes like the one she was in. And a lot of people got very big sentences because they were carrying very huge piles of cocaine.
Yeah, like thousands of pounds, right?
But in her case, I got her sentence reduced by going back to court. And that judge I could tell right from the beginning, he felt that was a ridiculous sentence. So that's how her sentence was reduced to, I think, 40 years. And she had to do 20, and she had already done them when the clemency petition was granted. So she came to the hearing, and the hearings conducted before the Illinois Prisoner Review Board. And she was able to talk to them and answer their questions. And I think they could see that this is not a drug trafficker. If anything, she was just a mule who, but in fact, I'm very confident, and her, she would never have done something like that. Never. If somebody had said to her, we want to put 1,100 pounds of cocaine in the back of the motorhome you're in, she would never have gotten in that motorhome. No. That's not who she is.
It's so out of character.
Yeah, no, she didn't know. I think the people who were driving the motorhome wanted to make it look innocent, and they needed women there because otherwise it was 4 guys in a motorhome together. I mean, it just didn't seem like a likely situation. So they needed a couple women to make it look. So she was just totally used.
After Margaret was able to reduce Edie's sentence and get her out of prison, my cousin started working anywhere she could, despite her criminal record looming over her.
She had already been working. She had a perfect prison record. She had never been arrested for anything else. She was an appropriate candidate to be able to get pardoned for the offense and be able to expunge it from her record. So
easier said than done, right? But then, to my surprise, Margaret was able to pull it off. With a flick of his pen, Governor J.B. Pritzker granted my cousin Edie's clemency and expunged her record. I could not believe it. Edie's couldn't believe it.
Te ganaste la lotería, right? Like you won the lottery in a sense, right?
Oh, definitely. See, no, I wasn't even thinking about none of that. Like you don't even think, especially in me, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, what is this? Like, I didn't understand nothing. And my attorney explained it to me, Noira, you got this. This is good. It's a clemency. It's going to help you to move on. It was a miracle, Javi, to tell you the truth. It was a miracle.
Yeah.
For me to get a Clement, I mean, what? I don't even know what to say. But in reality, I don't have a record.
I asked my cousin how much did she have to pay in attorney fees for the clemency application and hearing.
She helped me pro bono, everything. Wow. Everything. ¿Tú sabes cuánto vale todo eso?
I wasn't surprised because what's it to them? It's not a big deal. No.
Well, I'm so glad that my cousin was able to find you.
She didn't have any money.
No, absolutely. And she's still, she's just getting by.
Well, she probably got out because you wrote that letter.
Oh, gosh. I'm sure a lot of people wrote that letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did.
I'm glad I played a small role in it. So
you did.
The one thing I can tell you, I never got in trouble. And if you see my clemency or my hearing paper, el juez dijo, like, you are an example of an inmate. And I never got in trouble. I always try to help people. Like I used to do out here. I didn't change.
Yeah.
Yo nunca he cambiado. ¿Ves? Ni lo voy a hacer ahora, menos todavía.
She says she knows who she is and what she stands for. Yeah.
Y el que me quiera como soy yo, más nada. Tú sabes. Yo no voy a estar juzgando a nadie porque no me quieren, no me importa. Tú sabes. ¿Dónde tú estabas cuando yo estuve ahí adentro? Where?
To this day, Edie's insists that she's innocent.
Because I'm not a criminal.
You can get all the pardons and commutations, but my cousin says that nothing erases the stigma attached with being a convicted felon.
And when you're out here, it's even totally, believe it or not, Javi, it's gonna make me cry, pero sometimes I feel out here it's worse than in there because you're in a bubble. And here is who's out to get you. Yeah. And it's very unpleasant to feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
La gente dice, oh, your freedom. Yeah, but you can have freedom, but you have freedom in your mind, in your heart, wherever you are. That's your freedom. But I made it through. I made it out. ¿Me entiende? That's how I feel. I made it out. I'm fine. Never going back to how I was before I got incarcerated. But the worst part is when you get out here and that people reject you.
Yeah.
Like you're going to go give them a kiss, a hug, te echan para atrás. Like if, como si tú fuera, the worst of the worst. And I'm like, whoa.
And there's no pardon for that, right? Like,
no, only God has the pardon. It's crazy. I think you're the first one who ever asked me. Porque yo me puedo sentar contigo, hacemos un libro, fíjate. Yeah. I still carry it with me, Javi. I cannot hide it. Okay, no, let's pretend it never happened. Como me dice, pretend that never happened. Are you kidding me? That was part of my life for 23 years. You're going to tell me it never happened?
No.
Hell to the yes, it happened. ¿Entiendes?
Yeah.
¿Cómo le voy a ignorar una cosa? This is my life.
Yeah.
And this is the truth. And that's it.
That's it for today's episode. We have one more episode in this pardon series, and it's a big one. We're going to take you inside the Capitol on January 6th, and we're going to talk to one of the rioters that went inside the Capitol. She's known as the MAGA Granny. That's next time on Pretend. As always, thank you for everyone who supports this show. Today's episode was written and produced by me, Javier Leyva. Our theme music is by Joe Basile with thechicken.net. That's all I got for you this week. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.